Ma'am, are you fine if we record the session?
Yeah, no problem. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay.
Ma'am, it's 8 o'clock. I think we can begin.
Okay, then.
So we can start now.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
So, good evening, everybody. So, it is my pleasure to present over this forum, and thank you, Dr. Dodul, Dr. Vivek, and of course, Dr. Tanveer, for giving me the opportunity to present the molecular markers in glioma. This is basically the adult glioma I am covering today. And this is mainly for the DNB students who are over here and going to give their exam very soon. So this is, I'm not going to very detail of everything, but an overview will be given when the lecture will be over. So why we are so much bothered about the molecular markers in adult glioma? This is only because that it comes as 10 marks question in DNB exam? No, not at all. Because this is something new. This is something new because till the 2007, the WHO classification that proposed the histological criteria and morphological features. Importantly, the atypia, the mitotic activity, endothelial proliferation, and necrosis. These were the features which classified the adult CNS tumor, or specifically the glioma. But there are certain limitations, like inter and intra-observer variability is always there, because might be I am thinking it as grade 2, some other person can think it this is the grade 3, so that is one issue. And the most important point that I believe the most important is the within the same tumor subtype and grade, there is lot of variability in the prognosis. So due to this thing, uh, just a minute. So due to these limitations, we were thinking something beyond these morphological features only, and that is the molecular markers. So this is now the era of molecular marker. We see how frequently the things are coming, that new markers and then the new drugs in medical oncology. But in neuro-oncology, this is the first time that molecular markers that came in place as the diagnostic, prognostic, as well as predictive marker. So when it was first conceptualized, that was the Harlem's classification. Harlem classification, that is International Society of Neuropathology. There was a Harlem consensus that was happened in the May 2014. So we can say that exactly 6 years ago it was first conceptualized, and primarily they focused onto the two groups of tumors. One is diffuse glioma, including the adult and pediatric astrocytoma, oligodendroglioma, as well as glioblastoma, and embryonal tumors. So today I am focusing only the diffuse glioma. The main important thing that was conceptualized in Harlem's classification, that is layered format of the diagnosis or reporting the CNS tumor. And what was that? The layer one, that is the integrated diagnosis, the final diagnosis we can say, incorporating all tissue-based information. Layer two, that is the classical pathologist version of histological classification. Layer three, the WHO grade. As I mentioned, the AMIN, that mnemonic, the students can remember that atypia, mitosis, endothelial proliferation and necrosis, and the molecular information that I am going to talk about. This is the example of medulloblastoma, but the glioma also, that should be for the reporting should be in this format only. So 2007, there were multiple astrocytic tumors, then oligodendroglial, oligoastrocytic. It was nomenclature was like that. But in 2016, the diffuse astrocytic and oligodendroglial, that was clubbed in together, and then they were classified as IDH mutant, IDH wild type, and the other variety like H3K27 mutant, not mutant. So it is very new thing that was not there in the 2007 version. And everywhere the classification is carrying a mutant variety or the wild type variety or the not otherwise specified or NOS. So what's new? There were some addition, that is number one and the most important, that is the genetic classification, as well as the not otherwise specified. The diffuse midline glioma, that is H3K27 mutant, that was even very new entity we can say. The epithelioid glioblastoma multiforme, as well as glioblastoma multiforme with primitive neural components. So these were the things that was added among all the genetic classification. That is, I want to emphasize again and again. So that is the main basis. So today we are discussing on the molecular markers. There was something that was removed from the 2007 classification. Those are not here in the 2016 classification. Those are protoplasmic astrocytoma, fibrillary astrocytoma, and gliomatosis cerebri. There are multiple other things, but I am more focusing on the adult diffuse glioma. And another thing, oligoastrocytoma. We can see our day-to-day practice, many of the report that comes as oligoastrocytoma, but that is strongly discouraged in the new classification of WHO that published in 2016. So oligoastrocytoma should not be used. So this is the paradigm shift in neuro-oncology. For the first time, the molecular parameters to establish brain tumor diagnosis, and it is very objective and very precisely defined entities we can diagnose. It is not that I am saying it oligodendroglioma and you are saying it the astrocytoma. It should be classified according to the molecular mutation that is present or not, and that is very precisely defined entities. There is another wastebasket category that is called as not otherwise specified, but that is not that we shouldn't do the molecular markers and just say that NOS, because where the facilities are not there, so there we should use this NOS, but always we should try to get the molecular markers things done. And apart from that, the not otherwise specified category, that should be studied more judiciously and more meticulously, so we can come up with other molecular markers also. So that is the main thing. It is not that we just go and say that it is NOS. It is not like that. NOS has its own merit. Important molecular markers that to be discussed today evening, that is, there are many actually. So what I have kept in bold, the IDH, the 1P19Q, the MGMT, as well as I will go for the ATRX, TP53, TERT, and very briefly the BRAF, H3K27 and EGFR. I think that is enough for your exam purpose. Now coming to the isocitrate dehydrogenase. What is this? This is nothing new. We have learned it in our first year MBBS time. It is the biochemistry class. We are taught about the Krebs cycles. So there are three types of IDH enzyme. This is basically an enzyme that is acting on the Krebs cycles, and it the isocitrate the substance on which it acts, and the oxidative decarboxylation happen, and alpha ketoglutarate is being produced. So IDH, there are three types, as I have already mentioned. You can see over here that IDH1 and IDH2 that are present both in cytosol and mitochondria, and IDH3 is only in the mitochondria. So the main the Krebs cycles that happens in mitochondria, that is done by the IDH3, but the IDH1 and IDH2 is also present. And what does it cause? That isocitrate to alpha ketoglutarate. But when it is mutated, instead of producing alpha ketoglutarate, there is more accumulation of 2-hydroxyglutarate. So I am just saying, because the 2-hydroxyglutarate is very, very important, because it is the important initial players in gliomagenesis. So what is happening? The alpha ketoglutarate that is produced, but again it is getting transferred to 2-hydroxyglutarate if there is any IDH mutant variety. And 2-hydroxyglutarate, that is important not only for the gliomagenesis pathway, but it may be detected on MR spectroscopy, and that can be used as non-invasive method or surrogate marker for IDH mutation. So the 2AG, these things, accumulation of this thing, if we are not getting any sample, but in the radio mix, what is coming up, so there the 2-hydroxyglutarate is very, very important to identify the IDH mutation in non-invasive method. Now, what is the clinical significance? We have understood the pathway, the mutation, but what is the clinical significance? So, number one, the 100% of oligodendroglioma, there is IDH mutation. So if you say this is oligodendroglioma and there is no IDH mutation, then it cannot coexist. So IDH mutation should be there is oligodendroglioma. And in astrocytoma, the low grade astrocytoma, grade 2 and grade 3, 70 to 80% are IDH mutant variety. But for GBM, that is the poor category of glioma, poorest category I must say, there the IDH mutation is very, very rare, 8 to 10% only. So this is for the diagnostic purpose, it is very important. And prognostically, the IDH mutant gliomas have a better prognosis than their wild type counterparts, even if the histological grade is the same. So IDH mutation, there are many variety, but most common is IDH1, and that is called as R132H. So R132H means the 132 position, the arginine is being replaced by histone. You don't have to remember all these things, but in exam, if you write, it is always better. And IDH2, that is less common, but there is also the mutation at the position of 172 sequence. For the IDH1, that R132H, that can be identified with the IHC, that is immunohistochemistry. But for other than the R132H mutation, we have to do. Now coming to the 1p19q co-deletion. So again, something from our biochemistry lesson, that this is 1p, this is 19q, and there is translocation, that this is coming, that 1p and 19q, the p is going to here, and this 19p is coming over here. So this is the 1p part and 19q. This is basically unbalanced translocation. So this unbalanced translocation, this part, the 1p and 19q, this is getting lost, or the derivative chromosome that is deleted, and that is called as 1p19q co-deletion. So first the p part of the first chromosome and q part of the 19th chromosome, they get attached, and ultimately that is lost, and it is classically that is found in oligodendroglioma. Not only that IDH mutation, but the 1p19q co-deletion, both the things are important to diagnose a oligodendroglioma according to the 2016 WHO classification. It is essential, and this is associated with improved survival, and it is also predictor of sensitivity to chemotherapy, particularly the PCV, and to some extent we can say that to temozolomide also, but mostly it was studied with the PCV chemotherapy. To identify this 1p19q co-deletion, we have to trust on the PCR based loss of heterozygosity and the fish technique. So these are costly technique, but it is very important to identify oligodendroglioma. Coming to the ATRX. What is the full form of ATRX? This is alpha thalassemia mental retardation X-linked gene. Very difficult, but just go by the ATRX, the form, that alpha thalassemia mental retardation, and it is X-linked gene. So ATRX, and it is critical in telomeres homeostasis. The mutation in ATRX, that means the loss of function. So ATRX loss, that is in IDH mutant variety, of course, the IDH mutation and TP53, if it is there, the ATRX loss is classical for the astrocytoma, and very important, it is mutually exclusive with the 1p19q co-deletion. So if ATRX is lost, 1p19q will not be there, and vice versa. If 1p19q co-deletion is there, then ATRX will not be lost. So this is mutually exclusive. Remember it, it is very important, so that whenever we are practicing in our day-to-day clinic, then we can advise our patient to do not only the every you cannot say that you do the every molecular marker. We have to be very rational. So for that part, these things are very important, that mutually exclusive with 1p19q co-deletion for the ATRX. It can be detected by immunohistochemistry, and for the tumor, there is that is immunonegative for ATRX protein. But we have to remember the non-tumor cells that will retain the expression, and that can be act as the positive internal control. So if we are testing with the IHC probe, and if non-tumor cells it is not coming as positive, so then we have to think the IHC is not good. We have to do some quality check or something like that. So non-tumor cells, there will be positive, but tumor, if there is mutation, then it will be immunonegative. Coming to the TP53, this is another regulator of cell cycle, and it is the part of the tumor suppression gene family, and it is most common in astrocytoma, but not in all astrocytoma, mind it. It is 50% of astrocytoma TP53 mutations can be found, and it is almost mutually exclusive. It is not 100% because 10% of oligodendroglioma also there is TP53 mutation. And to diagnose this, the DNA sequencing is the gold standard, because IHC there is chance of false positive or false negative. So it is not very sensitive or specific in terms of the IHC. So DNA sequencing, and again it is DNA sequencing, it is costly one. So coming to the pathway. There are two pathways for the glioma. One is IDH wild type glioma, one is IDH mutant type glioma. So first, the initiation, that is with the IDH mutation. IDH mutation, if 1p19q is maintained, or we can say there is no co-deletion, then the TP53 mutation or ATRX mutation, that will result into the astrocytoma. And for the 1p19q co-deletion, TART mutation may or may not be there, that is the oligodendroglioma. For the wild type, there are multiple other mutations like TP53 mutation, the EGFR mutation, the P10, the CDKN2A, and that may lead to the glioblastoma. For this part also, the IDH mutant glioma, the astrocytoma can transform to glioblastoma with some tertiary mutation. Here is the primary mutation or the initiator mutation, the secondary mutation, and the tertiary mutation. Tertiary mutation, actually it is not very clear. There are multiple pathways, so we are not going into the detail of that. But we must know from this class that first is the IDH 1 or 2, then the glioma precursor, then if TP53 and ATRX is there, then it will be astrocytoma. So ATRX, A for A, astrocytoma, and for 1p19q co-deletion, a very broad term, so that oligodendroglioma, both the broad term. Okay. Now coming to the MGMT methylation status. MGMT is very common for our day-to-day practice, as well as everybody knows, I think, MGMT every time before giving temozolomide, we are searching for the MGMT methylation status. So what is it? This is basically, MGMT is the enzyme that is a kind of DNA repair enzyme. The full form is the O6 methyl guanine DNA methyl transferase. So big name. But what it actually does, it is the methyl adduct or alkyl adduct from the gene, that is from the DNA, that is being removed by this enzyme. So by removing that, the repair mechanism is getting activated. But if the MGMT gene, the promoter part is methylated, then the silencing of this gene happened. If the silencing of the gene happened, then there will be no or less this enzyme. So repair will be hampered and more tumor cell kill by the DNA damage. So MGMT actually saving the tumor cells. So if the MGMT is not there, with the promoter methylation, then more tumor cell kill can happen with the DNA damage. It is independent prognostic marker regardless of the type of treatment, and as well as it is predictive marker of the response to chemotherapy, specifically to the temozolomide. What temozolomide does, that is the methylation of the DNA, and MGMT that repair. So temozolomide is actually getting wasted, but if MGMT is not there, the temozolomide will work more efficiently. For this identification of the methylation status, the methylation specific PCR or the pyrosequencing, that has to be done. coming to the TERT. TERT, the full form is telomerase reverse transcriptase. Again, the gene, the DNA and all these things, but we just have to remember that it is something to do with the telomerase stability. And it can be used as prognostic marker in glioma. And it depends, it is not very simple that if it is mutated, then it is good or bad. It is not like that. It depends on presence of other molecular alteration. So TRT on its own cannot say anything, but other marker like IDH, the 1p19q, all are important. And there are 5 glioma molecular groups with the use of these 3 alterations. What are those? So first of all is triple positive. So IDH mutant, TRT mutant, and 1p19q co-deleted. And there the prognosis is good. If IDH and TRT positive, but 1p19q is not positive, still the prognosis we can call it as good only. Only IDH positive, okay, so it is not very good, because with IDH, if TRT mutation is there, then it is better. But still IDH positive, we all know that IDH positive is better than the IDH wild type. So it is good. But if it is only TRT positive, there is no IDH mutation and there is no question of 1p19q co-deletion, then the prognosis is the worst. And the triple negative, the TARC mutation is not there. That means the TARC wild type along with other wild type, then it is also bad, but relatively better than only TARC positive. So this is one way I cannot understand that every people is understanding or not, because there is no face-to-face interaction. But I think I will share this PPT, and if you go through this chart and everything, so it is very simple. Two or three times if you read, you will get everything in your mind. It is not any rocket science. So some more.
Ma'am, can you please explain TERT once again, ma'am?
Okay, sure. So TART is the telomerase reverse transcriptase. How it is involved in the glioma pathogenesis, I am not going into detail, but just for the prognostic marker, it is used as prognostic marker in glioma. It is not very classical of diagnostic or predictive, but it is only for the prognostic marker. So it depends on the presence of other molecular marker, other molecular alteration. What are those? One is IDH, one is 1p19q co-deletion, right? So if it is triple positive, like in breast cancer, we say the triple positive, ER, PR and HER2 all positive. Here it is another terms we can use as triple positive. The IDH, that is mutant, TARC is mutated, and 1p19q co-deletion is also present. Understood? So here the prognosis is good. Okay. Next is IDH positive and TARC positive, but 1p19q co-deletion is not there. Think of this, you can understand in this way. The triple positive means it is oligodendroglioma, and oligodendroglioma every time it is better than the astrocytoma. Because of 1p19q co-deletion, it is oligodendroglioma, and it is IDH mutant as well as TARC mutant. So it is going to be of good prognosis. Okay. Now next is 1p19q non-co-deleted. If 1p19q non-co-deleted, that means it is not oligodendroglioma, it will be astrocytoma. So it is good only just because of IDH mutant, but it is relatively less good, I can say. It is not worse, or I cannot say that, but it is good prognostic group only, but something less than the triple positive group. Now coming to the IDH positive only. So here the TART is not mutated. If TART is not mutated, only IDH is positive, and it is non-correlated 1p19q. The prognostically it is so. The astrocytoma IDH mutant, it is so. It is not, it cannot be called as very good, but it is so. Now, next prognostically group is the triple negative. If everything is negative, then the prognostically that is bad. But if others are, the IDH is wild type, 1p19q non-correlated, but TART mutation positive. So only alone TART positive, that is the worst group according to this study, and it is classified as the least favorable group if there is only TART positive. Am I clear? Or any questions there?
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Thank you. So I'm going to the next slide. So EGFR, BRAF, and H3K27. It is not commonly used, but we have to remember that EGFR is the main culprit in IDH wild type glioblastoma multiforme. So I have already shown that the glioblastoma multiforme, the IDH mutation is very, very rare, but there is gliomagenesis. So what is the pathway? The EGFR is the most common, that is 40% of IDH wild type GBM, that is due to the EGFR amplification. There are multiple other things like gain of 7p, loss of 10q. So that is, I'm not going into details, but amplification and EGFR version 3 mutation, these things are very, very common in case of IDH wild type glioblastoma multiforme. That's all. Now going to the BRAF. BRAF, that is relatively less common in diffuse glioma. It is for more common in well circumscribed glioma like pilocytic astrocytoma or pilocytic xanthoastrocytoma. But it has been found, it is very interesting, that in 2016, the new entity, that epithelioid glioblastoma multiforme, that is prognostically different. How different, that is not yet defined, but epithelioid glioblastoma multiforme, the new entity, BRAF mutation is present almost in 50%. And why BRAF is important? Because it is a predictive marker like vemurafenib, dabrafenib, those are BRAF 600E mutant variety, those drugs can act. So this is predictive marker, we can say, but the studies are not matured enough to say about it. But still BRAF is very important, particularly in pilocytic astrocytoma, pilocytic xanthoastrocytoma, and epithelioid glioblastoma multiforme. And H3K27. H3K27 is a very, very bad thing, we can call as the nightmare for the neuropathologist, because whenever H3K27 mutation is there, the prognosis is very, 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 very poor. H3K27 mutation is very, very aggressive tumor and carries a very poor prognosis. It is mainly the diffuse or infiltrative midline glioma, H3K27 mutant, that is the H3K27 mutation is mainly found in the diffuse midline glioma like diffuse pontine glioma or thalamic glioma. It is most common and it carries an extremely poor prognosis. But it can be found in other part of astrocytoma or glioma, but it is classical of diffuse midline glioma, and it is in WHO 2016, it is mentioned separately as diffuse midline glioma H3K27 mutant variety. This H3K27 can be easily detected with the IHC. So coming to the very busy slide at whenever we are seeing at it, but it is not that difficult if we go step by step. Now, histologically, neuropathologist has given the diagnosis of astrocytoma or oligoastrocytoma or oligodendroglioma or glioblastoma, whatever. So, first of thing, the oligoastrocytoma, that is not the term we should accept actually. So oligoastrocytoma should be strongly discouraged, the first lesson. Now, to identify more precisely the IDH mutation, that should be found out, and for that the IHC for IDH, and that can be categorized as IDH mutant or IDH wild type. If it is IDH wild type, then straight away this is diffuse astrocytoma IDH wild type or oligodendroglioma, not otherwise specified, we can say. But if it is IDH mutant, then there are two things. If ATRX loss, then astrocytoma. If 1p19q co-deletion, then it is oligodendroglioma. Is it that difficult? I don't feel so. And for glioblastoma, IDH mutant, good. Glioblastoma IDH mutant, that 8 to 10% rare variety, but most common the IDH wild type, and that is glioblastoma IDH wild type, that carries poor prognosis. So one way, it's a very simple slide, but at first glance it may look as a very terrific or very difficult slide, but believe me, go through it step by step, you can understand easily. Now coming to the ISNO guideline, we are very lucky that we have such a group where we can get our own data, and ISNO consensus, that is Indian Society of Neuro-Oncology guidelines, that is the practical adaptation, particularly for like our country where everything is not available everywhere. So that is very important. So this is the practical adaptation of WHO 2016 classification of adult diffuse glioma. Excellent article. I am just going step by step and few area only. So diffuse glioma, that is low grade, grade 2 or grade 3. Again, the histology, that is astrocytoma, oligoastrocytoma or oligodendroglioma. What should you do? The first thing, anybody can volunteer.
IDH status will check now.
Yeah. So this is the IDH, and IDH, that is for our resource limited, we can do the R132 ways, that IHC, not the sequencing at the first step. Okay, so it is IDH positive or IDH negative, but more specifically we should say that R132H positive or R132H negative. So we can classify every histology according to that. Now next, anybody?
ATRX, 1p19q correlation, and the TERT.
All three. You will do all three. This is
ATRX and 1p19q will be enough.
ATRS and 1p19q.
Yeah. So first of all, what will you do? ATRX or 1p19q, or both at the same time?
ATRX.
ATRX, very good, because ATRX can be identified with the IHC, that is less costly, less expensive. So for most of the time, for exam purpose, we say that don't think about the financial issues, nothing, but sometimes you have to think specifically when the pioneers have created such guideline for our benefit. Okay, so IHC with ATRX. So if ATRX is lost, Then what will be the diagnosis? Anybody?
Astrocytoma.
Astrocytoma.
Oligoastrocytoma.
Oligoastrocytoma. Who said oligoastrocytoma and why? If ATRX is lost, along with the and ATRX loss, anytime it will be after the IDH mutation, right? So it is astrocytoma, but we have to focus for the oligoastrocytoma, so we cannot use that term. So I have marked over here, we have to come to a conclusion. What is it? This is not oligoastrocytoma. We have to come. If it is ATRX loss, then it is astrocytoma, well. But what about these things? If oligoastrocytoma histology and R132H is negative and the ATRX is retained, then it is oligoastrocytoma. So we have to go to the next step. What is the next step? Anybody? Hello.
IDH sequencing or
IDH sequencing. Why IDH sequencing? Because we just want to oligo or astro. So what will be that?
1p19q
co-deletion. Very good. 1p19q co-deletion. We are now dealing with the oligo and astro, this ambiguity, right?
okay.
So we have to go for the FISH study for the 1p19q. It is mandatory for this part. Okay. Why? Because it is oligoastro. We cannot call something like that. And here the IDH, that 132H is negative and ATRX is retained. So we are still not clear what is it. It may be astro, it may be oligo, because ATRX retained part also, that can be astrocytoma, right? So oligoastro, to classify it either oligo or astro, 1p19q is mandatory. Clear? Or any doubt? Any doubt?
And can you repeat again?
Okay. So I'm coming from the first, that is
Ma'am, from ATRX.
from ATRX. Okay, from ATRX. So 132H, that is positive or negative, we are doing IEC for the all for these categories. Okay. If ATRX is lost, it is astrocytoma IDH mutant. If ATRX is lost over here, see, if ATRX is lost, though the IDH is negative, still we will call it the astrocytoma, but not otherwise specified, because 132H is negative. And so on so forth. This oligoastrocytoma, the main problematic part, the IDH we have done, it is negative. The ATRX is lost, then we can call it astrocytoma. But problem when the ATRX is retained. ATRX is retained means it can be oligodendroglioma or astrocytoma, both. And histopathology is not giving us any clue whether it is oligo or astro. It is ambiguous. Clear? This part, till this part, it is clear or not?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, ATRX and 1p co-deletion is mutually exclusive, ma'am.
Yes, that is mutually exclusive, but if 1p19q is present, then ATRX loss will not be there. But it is not like that, because ATRX, I have already said that it is almost 50%, that is astrocytoma, ATRX loss is there, but not for the 100%, right? And mostly there are other cells that can show the positivity for the ATRX, that I have already mentioned. So positivity, whether this is due to the non-tumor cells, in between the tumor cells, that also can be there. isn't it? So ATRX retained does not rule out the astrocytoma. ATRX loss is astrocytoma, we can understand, but ATRX retained, that means oligodendroglioma. It is not like that. For oligodendroglioma, 1p19q is must, is mandatory.
Mukti, can I ask? Can I interrupt a minute?
Yes, sir, please.
No. Actually, this concept, I have understood extremely well, but we keep on asking you. So just wait for another 1 minute and please explain that again. See, if I understand, just now, the student who had asked you that ATRX and this is mutually what do you call it? Mutually exclusive.
1p19, yeah,
Yeah,
mutually exclusive. Yeah.
So I have a point, like ATRX loss. Will it not go in the favor of astrocytoma?
Yes, sir, it is there.
Okay.
It is there.
Okay.
ATRX
So,
loss, it is there. But
so
if
ATRX loss
is
is
retained,
astrocytoma.
yeah,
Yes.
the problem is with this category where instead of the IHC for IDH1, if ATRX loss is not there, or we can say ATRX is retained, that is still not classified.
Okay, very good. So for
This
the
part.
benefit of the students, I am not as intelligent as Mukti is as far these things are concerned. I'm at all not here. No. So how I remember, I don't know, any of you know a product called as ALA. It is basically a kind of a bleach which we use in our house. So I remember in a mnemonic ALA. ALA means, how I remember, ATRX, A, L means loss, and astrocytoma. So I always try to correlate with this ki ALA, ALA. So ATRX loss is astro. Then I try to refit my things, back how to go. So if ATRX loss, I'll think it's in a form of astrocytoma. So this is just for the students, if any of a basic, if you want to remember, ALA, ALA. ATRX loss is astro. Mukti, you can continue. Sorry for interrupting in between. Sorry.
Thank you, sir, for the
No,
interaction.
please,
basically.
Please continue. Yeah. Continue. Okay.
And so we are not.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Somebody wants to ask anything? Okay. So ATRX loss, that is astrocytoma, no problem. But if ATRX is written particularly in this category, where the morphologically we are not sure about the oligo or astro, then the fish for 1p19q co-deletion is mandatory. Okay. Here also there is ATRX retention, but morphologically it was astrocytoma. So in our Indian scenario, remember, in our Indian scenario, we can call it as astrocytoma NOS, or you can go ahead with the other 1p19q co-deletion. But for 1p19q co-deletion, you don't need to do if it is ATRX loss and IDH positive. It is not advised, as well as this group where the IDH positive and ATRX loss is there, because the 1p19q is mutually exclusive with the ATRX loss. Okay.
Ma'am, in the second column, that ATRX, there is, and the third one, that ATRX loss is there, and IDH negative, R132H is negative. Then it is
This
coming.
This
Hello,
Yeah,
ma'am,
yeah.
the left to that, left side.
This one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So after that, we are coming astrocytoma NOS. Then after that, if you are doing fish and 1p19q correlation becomes positive, then what is the case?
I will go into that. Okay. But as of now, you just remember that how can it be, it is good that you pointed it out, that IDH is negative, but still ATRX is loss. How can it be possible? Because always the ATRX comes after the IDH mutation. So here we have to remember that IDH is some other mutation might be there. Okay. So I am answering in a different way. So here the R132H is negative, but still ATRX loss is there. So might be there is some other IDH mutation. So this is one thing. And for the fish where we don't have to do the fish for 1p19q, is that clear or not?
See, if it is not clear, better to ask again and again, because it's something
Yes,
very,
yes,
very
that's why
basic.
I am not going.
So no
Yes,
need to
ma'am, but
hesitate.
okay, ma'am, what I had confusion is like
Yes, you
IDH
must be
negative is
confused.
okay.
This is like that only. So, but after today's class, you don't have to be confused once again. So that's why I'm asking again and again. Please don't feel shy. Ask anything.
Yeah, that's like the ATRX loss. Then if I'm doing 1p19q correlation, ATRX loss means it's pointing towards astrocytoma.
No, we
And
are
after,
not doing. No, we are not doing. Fish is not advised. See, wherever there is
No, no.
ATRX loss,
the after that the ATRX loss is there, the third one. Then
this
it
one.
is yes,
I am
ma'am. Yes,
not
ma'am.
going into that. I will explain it
Okay.
later. I am saying
Okay.
that not
Okay.
advised and not advised. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that clear? Everybody?
Don't hesitate. Keep on asking.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
whenever IDH positive is there, IDH mutant and ATRX loss, we don't have to go for the fish. This much clear. Now,
Can you repeat once more?
yeah, sure. So, any variety, mostly the astrocytoma and oligoastrocytoma, if the IDH is mutant or R132H is positive, and then we found that ATRX is lost, as Dr. Tanvir has already mentioned, ALA, ATRX lost, that means astrocytoma. So that is defined. That is defined precisely. We don't have to do this IDH mutation followed by ATRX loss. Both the things are there. Then we don't have to do the fish for 1p19q co-deletion. Clear? I can repeat once again, no issue. Hello?
Ma'am, clear, ma'am.
Yes,
Clear?
ma'am. Clear. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Now, after this not advised and not advised, we are going to this mandatory and mandatory, where this is mandatory. First one is this ATRX, if it is retained, whatever the IDH, but for the oligoastrocytoma variety, whatever the IDH, if the ATRX is retained, it is mandatory. If it is morphologically oligoastrocytoma, if it is oligoastrocytoma, then after that we have performed the IDH. Whatever the result of IDH, the ATRX is retained. Then we have to go for the 1p19q. This part I am explaining now. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Clear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now another one mandatory, where it is. This is morphologically oligodendroglioma. Morphologically, this is oligodendroglioma. This is 132H negative. So IDH is not mutated. But what we have learned from our previous slides, that is oligodendroglioma 100% is IDH mutant variety, right? IDH mutant followed by 1p19q. Then only we can call it as oligodendroglioma. But here pathologist is already showing that it is oligodendroglioma. Your 132H may be negative, but ATRX is also retained. So another positive for the oligodendroglioma. So then go for the 1p19q co-deletion. I am again saying, because 132H is, though it is the most common IDH mutation in adult glioma, but there are many others. Maybe there is IDH2 mutation or anything else. So IDH negative and ATRX retained doesn't mean anything. So we have to go for the 1p19q co-deletion here also. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Very much clear.
Okay. Anybody, if having any doubt, you can ask me freely.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So coming to this part, the most confusing part, let's see what is written actually. Here, where there is ATRX loss, will not go for the fish. It is advised because this whole variety, the Astrocytoma not otherwise specified, it is not only this loss variety, also that this retained variety, that IDH positive or negative, if the ATRX is not lost, or we can say if the ATRX is retained, then only we have to go for the fish. It is astrocytoma morphologically. IDH, whatever the result, ATRX retained, then fish has to be done, may be done, has to be done. We should not say in Indian scenario. For the WHO, yes, it has to be done, but for our purpose, we can skip it also, because otherwise it is morphologically astrocytoma, and if it is particularly if IDH mutation is there, we can say it happily that astrocytoma not otherwise specified. But ideally means when in Viva you were told that don't think about the facility, don't think about the these things. So you, in the retained ATRX case, you can do it, but this is called as optional. Here it was not advised, here it was mandatory, but here it is optional, not mandatory. But you can do it to get more specific result. And for the oligodendroglioma, IDH mutation, and it is ATRX is written exactly matching everything. So it may be done, but it is also optional. So there is two types where we don't have to do the 1p19q co-deletion after doing IDH and ATRX by IHC if the ATRX loss is there. If ATRX loss is there, mutually exclusive 1p19q will not be there. So no need to do it. Mandatory where the oligoastrocytoma is there or oligodendroglioma IDH negative, and along with that ATRX retained. For them we have to do. So first of all, think that if ATRX is retained, we have to go for the fish for 1p19q. Some are mandatory, some are optional. But for simple remembering, I think it's the best. If ATRX loss, we don't have to do the 1p19q. But if ATRX is retained, we should do. Among them, some are mandatory, some are optional. I think that is next step. But it is clear that if ATRX is retained, then we have to go for the 1p19q. If ATRX is lost, the ala mnemonic, the ATRX is lost, it is astrocytoma, and we don't have to do the 1p19q co-deletion. Clear? Hello. I think
Clear, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
clear.
ma'am.
I thought that everybody has just left the meeting because of so difficult and complexity. Is it so complex?
Yeah, it is complex.
No, ma'am. You have explained it beautifully, ma'am.
Are you able to understand now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So next, coming to the IDH sequencing. Again, it is a step ahead, but where the IDH, this R132H is not positive, then we can do it like here and here. I think I am not going into the detail because it will be too technical and too complex. But for exam purpose, you have to remember the IDH, you have to remember the ATRX loss, what does it mean, ATRX retained, what does it mean, and FISH 1p19q co-deletion, what does it mean. Why we are doing this in less number of people? Because we are doing IDH and ATRX for everybody, because this is IHC method, it is widely available and it is less expensive. But for FISH, it is not available everywhere and it is more expensive. So we can use it in selective group of people or tumor samples. Okay, I'm going to the next slide. So it is the same thing. I'm not going again. I think we have already done it. The clinical implication of these molecular markers in low-grade glioma. So IDH mutation is mandatory, at least the IHC. If it is wild type, it is more aggressive and carries poor prognosis. But if there is high suspicious of IDH mutation, clinico-radiologically, like I said, that if there is MR spectroscopy is showing that there is more 2-HG, that 2-hydroxyglutarate, then we can go for the DNA sequencing for the IDH, even if it is wild type. And more than the 2-HG, that MR spectroscopy, the more T2 flare, the hyper intensity, that is another thing that is correlated with the IDH mutation. For the other molecular marker, that can be done if it is wild type, but very selective cases. And if further tests are not feasible, most of the case we feel the same thing, that further test is not feasible, like treatment protocols should be not like low grade glioma, but low grade glioma high risk group, so that we have to be more aggressive in our treatment protocol also. What is that? We have already seen that believers trial, non-believers trial. So observation, don't go for the observation in this wild type, even if it is the low grade glioma, because these are not exactly low grade, it is high risk of low grade glioma if it is IDH wild type, and adding chemotherapy will give a better survival or progression free survival. So adding PCV or temozolomide, that is better. Now the IDH mutant grade 2 glioma, observation may be a reasonable option, but there are some tumor factors and patient factors. Mostly the younger age group patient, like less than 40 years of age, the small tumor, that is initial scan, it is less than 6 centimeter, tumors not crossing the midline, minimal enhancement or there is no enhancement, the excellent surgery, almost total surgery or near complete resection, or the favorable molecular profile with along with the IDH mutation, like I have already mentioned, like TART and low MIB index, and if it is oligodendroglioma, then observation may be a reasonable option, but always the decision should be done in a multidisciplinary team meeting. Now grade 3 and IDH mutant. Last slide it was grade 2 glioma IDH mutant, now it is grade 3 glioma but IDH mutant. If 1p19q is co-deleted, means the oligodendroglioma grade 3, prognostically they are better than the non-co-deleted group of patient. And for the 1p19q co-deleted group, the adjuvant chemotherapy plays an important role. There is a study specifically on the PCV versus temozolomide, that is the CODEL study, the Alliance group is performing the study. But adjuvant chemotherapy has its role. PCV is still considered as the standard of care, but temozolomide is widely practiced. And 1p19q non-co-deleted group prognostically worse, as astrocytoma that they do bad. The median overall survival is almost the 3.5 years. But here the post-op radiation with concomitant and adjuvant temozolomide, that is the Stroop regimen, the classical Stroop regimen that is recommended and that is proven in the CATNON trial, the phase 3 trial. Now coming to the glioblastoma multiforme. The glioblastoma multiforme, it is in the ISNO guideline, they have classified initially as two groups, that elderly and younger, relatively younger group, that is less than 55 years or more than 55 years. And there is a separate entity that is for the diffuse midline glioma. So we have to do the IHC, then the ATRX, then 1p19q that we have mentioned, but IHC for H3K27 mutation, that is another important thing. That is for the midline location, the IDH is negative, the ATRX may be lost or retained, no issues. Midline glioma, IDH negative, go for the IHC for H3K27 mutation. And for the more than 55 years of age, the IDH mutant or wild type, the wild type straight away, this is wild type GBM. For the IDH mutant variety, again the same thing, the ATRX loss or then it is GBM IDH mutant is said. But if it is written, the revisit diagnosis that to be considered, and so on and so forth. In GBM, the IDH itself is very rare, so it is, I think, not that important except for the H3K27 mutant.
So can I ask a question now?
Yes, sir.
No, this is not for you, for others. So anybody can answer. So which has a better prognosis in GBM, IDH wild type or IDH mutant type? Dr. Mukti told that the IDH wild type is more common than IDH mutant. Prognosis wise, which is better? Anybody can answer.
Mutant types.
IDH mutant.
Mutant.
Absolutely. Very good. Hope you all have done the quiz also. If you have not done the quiz, you can go back and do the 10 questions, so you will be understanding it even a better way after listening to this lecture, Okay. So, Mukti, now you can ask, you can ask them the questions, so that wrap up. I don't know how they're concentrating so much, because even I am also losing my patience now, understanding,
No,
so you please continue.
2 or 3 slides are
Yeah. So you can ask them the questions also in between, they can answer because they are very good students. They know everything now. I think so.
I know. So
Okay.
shall I proceed with my presentation or just ask the question?
Ma'am, proceed with the presentation.
Okay. So the GBM IDH that already you have answered, the wild type, this is the primary GBM, more common but prognostically worse, and mutant variety that is called as the secondary GBM. The epidemiologically it is more common in the younger age group, and it is prognostically better. Now coming to the MGMT promoter methylation, we have already understood the mechanism. It is independent prognostic and predictive marker, as we have already seen in the previous slides. The unmethylated MGMT trials of alternate or different doses of chemotherapeutic agents have been tried, but there is no survival advantage when compared to standard temozolomide therapy. So the take home will be from this slide is the Stroop regimen is the standard of care for both methylated and unmethylated GBM. Is that clear? I think it is very easy compared to the previous slides. And another thing is that MGMT promoter methylation status, it is frequently associated with pseudo progression. Pseudo progression, that is a definite criteria, modified Rano criteria. This is not the exactly, I am not going to details of the modified random, but pseudo progression where there is radiologically there is progression, but it is not actually progression. It is called a pseudo progression, and it is more common in MGMT promoter methylation status. So after completion of the CTRT, that is concomitant temozolomide and radiation, and when you are going for the adjuvant temozolomide, in between might be after third cycle you can you have advised for MRI and it is showing that progression. Then you must talk to or discuss with your radiologist, preferably the neuroradiologist, that see this patient is having MGMT promoter methylation status, so it is positive. So can it be pseudo progression or it is true progression? Because if it is true progression, we have to stop the temozolomide and go for the salvage therapy something. But if it is pseudo progression, might be with continuation of the temozolomide only for another 3 cycles, we can get good result. So this is very important for our clinical day-to-day practice.
Ma'am, temozolomide will act only when the MGMT is methylated, right?
It is not like that. It is not like that, because the temozolomide, it is not that methylated is 100% methylated variety is there is present in all the tumor cells. It is basically a group of cells or clones, you can say. So it is always heterogeneous group, right? So heterogeneous clones means that there may be some MGMT methylated, maybe unmethylated. For the unmethylated MGMT, if we are adding more temozolomide, it is not going to give any advantage. So for that reason, it is, as of now, I must say, this is the as of now, the according to the guideline for methylated and unmethylated, Stoop regimen is the standard of care. They might, the methylated variety, whatever you are saying that methylated, they might have the better outcome, but it is not that it will not, temozolomide will not work in the unmethylated. Unmethylated, that is in some cells, some genes are methylated, but not all. That is heterogeneous.
Yeah, Mukti, sorry to interrupt. I really got fascinated with the question. The doctor who asked the question just now, okay, whether temozolomide will act only in the methylated. Exactly.
Hello. Hello.
Actually, this was the question when I was a resident. I asked Dr. Jalali sir. Hear me? Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
now we can hear
So
you.
yeah, so now the thing is exactly the same question I asked is, does temozolomide act only in the methylated one and not in the non-methylated, and should we give in the non-methylated group or not? So sir answer was in the very simple form. Tanvir understand in this way, in methylated it works more and unmethylated it works less, but still it works, and nothing, it's not like methylated only it works, unmethylated it just doesn't work. It's more effective in methylated, comparatively less effective in the non-methylated group. So that way also you can understand. So it's not that it doesn't work in the non-methylated, That was the Jalali sir answer to make me understand, Okay, please continue, Mukti, please, sorry.
Okay. So my last slide actually. So MGMT is very important when we are going to decide the treatment protocol for the elderly patient with GBM. If it is the patient is less than 70 years with good performance status and without any serious comorbidity, the standard radiation therapy with temozolomide, that is standard, no problem. For elderly patient, that is more than 70 years but with good performance status and not much comorbidity, hypofractionated radiation may be tried along with temozolomide. I am not saying what is the MGMT methylation status, because anyway in good performance status patient without any serious comorbidity, temozolomide can be added safely. But for older patient with poor functional status and significant comorbidity, the MGMT promoter methylation status will guide us how to go for this patient. If it is methylated, then temozolomide alone we can prescribe, because in methylated group, as we have already understood, that temozolomide will work better. And for the unmethylated, they are more aggressive or prognostically poor patient. So short course radiation therapy we can give, and the unmethylated group might be temozolomide will not work that much, might be in the patient with poor functional status, further leukopenia and anything excuse me, will further add the complication of the patient or hospital admission. So unmethylated state, the short course radiation therapy alone can we can try for this group of patients. So this is very important for our clinical perspective. With that, I want to thank you all. Dr. Rakesh Jalali sir, Dr. Tejpal sir, they are the pioneers. They are the they guide us for neuro-oncology, and we are anytime we are thankful to them. Dr.
Mukti,
Tanvir Shahid,
Mukti, please, Mukti, Vibhay has a question. Vibhay he posted a question. What about the extended temozolomide? So probably you can answer those two trials. You can just summarize what is the role of extended temozolomide, that is 6 cycle versus 12 cycle. Vibhay wants to know.
6 cycles versus 12 cycles. Is actually that is a related topic, we can say, but 6 months versus 12 months, there is not much survival advantage we can see. So as of now, the for the patient who are clinically, those are good performance status and they are doing well, good response after the 6 cycles of adjuvant temozolomide, of course. For them we can try, but from the phase 3 trial it is not established. The 0424 trials and these trials, they are not showing any as such promising result. But of course, after the 6 months of temozolomide, if the MRI is showing good response, patient clinical status is good, performance status is good, and the MGMT, of course, if it is methylated, and the patient blood count, blood parameters are also within normal range, and it is not showing any leukopenia tendency or trend to decrease leukocyte count, then we can consider.
Right. So Mukti is very beautifully summarized. So Dr. Vibhay also knows the answer, but I think for the sake of student, he asked. So 3 points what we should consider for 6 months versus 12 months. That means the extended temozolomide, number 1. Ideally, the patient should be methylated. That is number 1. Number 2, the patient should, in the 6 months of completion of temozolomide, the patient has done better and patient has done good. There is no signs of recurrence. And third thing is that the patient has a good general condition. So MGMT methylated, disease control, and good general condition. These 3 factors you will have to take into account to think about that whether the patient requires an extended temozolomide or not. These are things. And what Mukti said is very rightly that apart from these things, you have to also keep an eye on the leukopenia, because we have seen some of the patients go into leukopenia, even they have gone into the thrombocytopenia, pancytopenia, aplastic anemia. So those things will have to, the patients who are not doing well in spite of doing good, but blood parameters are not doing good, in them, of course, you cannot continue. So this was the thing. Okay. So Bhakti, you can continue. You're done.
Can I just have a small comment?
Yeah, Dudul, please. We'll be love to hear your comment, please.
There was a small study conducted at AIIMS. It was
So
that study had almost 40 patients.
Positive study.
40 patients.
Yes.
That was a positive study.
There was a significant overall survival advantage of almost 8 months.
Yeah. Right.
And,
Right.
PFS benefit of almost 4 months, and after
Absolutely.
that 12 cycles, adjuvant temozolomide has become standard in
Yeah.
use.
Absolutely. Absolutely
And
right. So we
absolutely
were
agree
aware.
that all those criteria
I
of
have one
patient
comment.
fitness, that is important.
Absolutely right, Dudul. Correct.
And
correct.
they were not tested for MGMT methylation status. So it was an untested population.
No, the reason why we told no, ki the Genio 4 trial has just been published, and one more trial, so they had a contradictory result. So that was the reason.
Yes.
A few days back, Dr. Riddhi had done a journal club on this, So through that only we came to know ki what is the evidence base to decide upon 6 months versus 2. That is the objective parameters what should be taken. And that only we came to know about the same study, 40 patients, and really the results were very encouraging, very, very encouraging, in fact. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Mukti. Mukti, you want
Also,
to say
sir,
something?
also, sir, if there was a very recent meta-analysis by Dr. Ali Mohammadi from, and I think that meta-analysis came from Iran.
Iran, right.
And that meta-analysis also said that it does help if you give 12 cycles.
Yeah. But moment we ask this question to Dr. Tejpal and Dr. Jalali, if they have the thing, it has to be individualized. The patient who are doing good can always, you can continue. No, simple thing. If the patient is doing good, you can continue. Okay. That's it.
And also, so I think in TMH, there is there is an undergoing trial where they have
Trial, right.
MGMT patients, and they are trying for 6 versus 12 cycles.
Yeah, so Dr. Reddy is very much interested because he is the next neuro fellow of Dr. Tejpal Gupta, sir. So he's very much interested in neuro. Okay. Yeah, continue. Okay. So, Dudul, I must really appreciate your effort, the way you are taking, and Vibhay at 9:30, almost 150 students still listening. You all are commendable. Hats off to you all.
It's
Great.
nothing that the other students nowadays are so interested to learn. I am amazed.
Really amazed. Really amazed. When I give example
They
to
start their day with academics.
Absolutely, absolutely great. God bless you all. Yeah, please.
Hello, Tanvir. Hello, Tanvir.
Oh, Dr. Kanu.
Oh, yeah.
My God, Dr. Kanu, still you are here. My God.
Kanu sir, good evening.
Good evening, good evening. So I have learned many things today also from Dr. Mukti.
My God, Kanu, if we can teach, if we can teach anything to you, Kanu, that means our life is blessed.
It's your modesty, sir.
Absolutely, it's your modesty. Absolutely, your modesty. Hats off,
still I am
Kanu.
learning. Dr. Mukti, after listening your presentation, I am thinking that I have to learn more from you also.
Sir, please.
No. Yes, Kanu, that's really. Mukti has a great command on neuro, and she has a really keen interest in neuro. And we always look upon her that she should answer. But you are hats off, Kanu. I mean, you are amazing. God bless you. God bless you.
So one thing I am just going to tell you.
Please.
So most of the times we got a financial issues due to the all ISCC sequencing and all things. So there is a lab called Core Lab, and that Core Lab, if you send them for the custom ISC panel, they do the IDH, ATRX, and everything at the cost of 3,500 only. So I'm not an agent or something, but we are getting the benefit from that Core Lab.
That's excellent.
So only 3,500, you can take the advantage of that when the financial issues are there. Very nice presentation. Thank you, Dr. Mukti.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
One doubt, excuse me. What is the role of CCNU lomustine? When do we give it?
CCNU, as of now, in recurrent setting, it is tried, but it is mainly in the second line systemic therapy. Second line, not in the first line. It's like that only, but I don't know what else to be said, because lomustine nowadays, it's not very common in our practice, but for second line therapy, it can be used along with bevacizumab or single.
I think the problem.
Sorry.
Yeah, please. No, you please continue. Yeah.
So there is a phase 2 study in recurrent settings where lomustine has been added with bevacizumab, and they've shown an overall survival benefit. as compared to the monotherapy. So the only role where lomustine actually nowadays where we are actually using it is in combination with bevacizumab, and it's shown to have a survival benefit.
Absolutely. So that was the point I was about to make. So very, very valid. Very valid. Yeah.
Yeah, but so in that case also the catch is the survival was better with the MGMT methylation rather than the unmethylated.
Yeah, MGMT methylation status, that was the prognostically good.
I think the residents are not feeling hungry or what? Sunday evening. How can you concentrate so much? Please.
Excuse me, Vibhor sir, can you please repeat that because there was some network issue.
Okay, so what I said was there is a phase 2 study which has shown an overall survival benefit in case of recurrent GBM, where lomustine is added with bevacizumab versus the monotherapy. However, the catch is when they did a subset analysis, they found that the methylated group did better as compared to the unmethylated group. So what I believe it was around 13 months versus 8 months. The benefit was around 4 to 5 months that was present.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Ma'am, in the oligodendroglioma, if the IDH is mutant and the ATRX is retained, why do we still call it as oligodendroglioma, not otherwise specified?
Still, the 1p19q co-deletion is mandatory according to the WHO classification for labeling as oligodendroglioma.
Okay.
So for Indian scenario, sometimes we don't go for the fish that is called as the option, but before calling anything as oligodendroglioma, we must do the 1p19q co-deletion.
Okay,
So,
okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So your answer is that the question which you asked, you to understand in simple thing, 100% of the patients should have a 1p19q co-deletion to be called as oligodendroglioma. As simple as that. If it is not, then you cannot call it as oligodendroglioma. Isn't it, Mukti?
Yes, sir. And then we have to add that term, that NOS.
NOS, right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So, Vibha, can we call it a day?
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for the excellent discussion. It cleared a lot of doubts.
Thank you, Vibha. Thank you. You're doing a great job. Really struggling hard to get the people, and the kind of response, it is something which is making us to study.
Not only for students, for us also.
Yeah. So since yesterday when you confirmed Dr. Mukti has to give this presentation, she is completely on a lockdown in a room, just preparing for the final slides, see how she can simplify it. So you're not taking any phone calls, nothing. So it's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, Mukti. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, ma'am.